He slept in his car for 8 months, showering at gas stations and living off dollar menu items. Today, he owns 7 companies and employs over 200 people. This is the story of how Daniel transformed complete devastation into extraordinary success through one simple realization that changed everything. Daniel had always been the guy with the plan. At 32, he was running a successful consulting firm, owned a beautiful home in the suburbs, and was engaged to the love of his life, Elena. He thought he had figured out the formula for success. Work harder than everyone else, take bigger risks, and success would follow. For 3 years, that formula worked perfectly. But success can be fragile when it's built on shaky foundations. Daniel's consulting firm specialized in helping small businesses optimize their operations. The irony wasn't lost on him later that he couldn't see the cracks in his own foundation. He was leveraging everything he had to grow faster. His house was mortgaged to fund office expansion. His savings were tied up in equipment and staff. When 3 of his biggest clients suddenly canceled their contracts within the same month due to their own financial troubles, Daniel's world began to crumble. The first domino was his business. Without those major contracts, he couldn't make payroll. He had to let go of his entire team of 12 employees. These weren't just employees to Daniel. These were people who had trusted him, who had families depending on those paychecks. Watching them clean out their desks while he apologized over and over again was one of the most painful experiences of his life. The guilt ate at him like acid. The second domino was his relationship. Elena had been supportive at first, understanding that businesses go through rough patches. But as weeks turned into months without income, as bills piled up and stress consumed their daily conversations, the foundation of their relationship began to crack. She wasn't leaving him because of the money, she later explained. She was leaving because he had become someone she didn't recognize. Daniel had become consumed by his failures, bitter and defensive. Every conversation became an argument. Every suggestion from her felt like criticism to him. The third domino was his home. Without income and with mounting debt, the mortgage payments became impossible. The bank was patient at first, offering payment plans and extensions. But patience has its limits. Daniel spent his last night in that house sitting on the floor of his empty living room, surrounded by boxes of his remaining possessions. The furniture had been sold to pay debts. The walls were bare. The silence was deafening. At 33 years old, Daniel found himself living in his Honda Civic. It wasn't a gradual decline into homelessness. It was a sudden, jarring transition from middle-class success to sleeping in parking lots. The first night in his car, he kept thinking this was temporary. Just a few days until he figured something out. A few days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The daily routine of car-bound life is more complicated than people imagine. You can't just park anywhere overnight without risking police attention or angry property owners. Daniel learned which 24-hour Walmart parking lots were safe, which rest stops had the cleanest bathrooms, and which gas stations had attendants who would look the other way when you spent 20 minutes in their restroom with a travel-sized soap and shampoo. Showering became a strategic operation. Planet Fitness Day passes were $10, but that was often $10 Daniel didn't have. Gas station restrooms with paper towels and hand soap became his primary option. The loss of dignity was gradual but constant. Every morning, looking at himself in a gas station mirror, trying to make himself presentable enough to walk into a coffee shop to use their Wi-Fi for job applications, was a reminder of how far he had fallen. 8 months into living in his car, Daniel was at his absolute lowest point. He had lost 35 pounds, not by choice. His clothes hung loose on his frame. He had applied for over 400 jobs, from entry-level positions to executive roles. The responses were always the same. Either silence or polite rejections. Having a gap in employment was difficult to explain, especially when that gap included being homeless. The morning that changed everything started like any other. Daniel woke up in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner, his neck stiff from sleeping sitting up. His phone battery was at 12%, and he needed to find somewhere to charge it before it died completely. That phone was his only connection to potential opportunities. He walked into the diner, ordered a cup of coffee with his last $3, and sat in a corner booth with his laptop. As he scrolled through job listings he had already seen dozens of times, Daniel overheard a conversation at the table next to him. Two business owners were complaining about their struggles with social media marketing. One owned a small plumbing company, the other ran a local bakery. They were discussing how much they were paying marketing agencies for social media management and how disappointed they were with the results. "I'm paying this company $1,500 a month to post on my Facebook and Instagram," the plumber said. "And I swear my 10-year-old nephew could do a better job. The posts look nothing like my business. They use these generic stock photos that have nothing to do with plumbing. My customers are telling me they can't even tell it's supposed to be my business." The baker nodded in agreement. "Same here. I'm paying $2,000 a month. And they posted a picture of cupcakes for my artisan bread business. When I complained, they said all bakeries are basically the same. I felt like I was just another account number to them. But I don't know how to do this stuff myself, and I can't afford to hire someone full-time." Daniel sat there listening, and something clicked. He had been thinking about his situation all wrong. He had been trying to get back to where he was before, trying to recreate his old consulting business or find a traditional job. But maybe the answer wasn't looking backward. Maybe it was looking at what was right in front of him. He had years of business experience. He understood operations, customer service, and marketing fundamentals. He had been managing his own company's social media for years before his business collapsed. More importantly, he understood what small business owners needed because he had been one. He knew their pain points, their limited time, and their tight budgets. Daniel spent the rest of that day in the diner, using their Wi-Fi to research social media marketing for small businesses. The more he read, the more he realized how big this problem was. Small businesses everywhere were struggling with the same issues those two men had been discussing. They needed social media presence to compete, but the big marketing agencies treated them like afterthoughts, and they couldn't afford to hire dedicated staff. That night, parked in his usual spot behind a closed shopping center, Daniel made a decision that would change his life. He was going to start over, but this time he would build something different. Something that served people he understood. He spent hours that night writing out a business plan on the back of old receipts and napkins he had collected. His idea was simple but revolutionary for him. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, he would focus specifically on social media marketing for small, local businesses. He would offer personal service at affordable prices. He wouldn't use generic content or treat clients like account numbers. He would learn each business intimately and create content that truly represented who they were. The next morning, instead of applying for more jobs, Daniel drove to the plumber's business. He had looked up the man's company online and found their social media accounts. Just as the plumber had said, the content was generic and impersonal. Daniel spent 2 hours creating sample social media posts specifically for their business. Real photos from their website, content that spoke to their local customers, posts that actually looked like they came from a plumber who cared about his community. He walked into their office and asked to speak with the owner. When the plumber came out, Daniel recognized him immediately from the diner. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation yesterday about your social media struggles," Daniel said. "I think I can help you solve that problem." He showed the plumber the sample posts he had created. The man's eyes lit up. "This actually looks like my business," he said. "This is exactly what I've been trying to get from my current company for months." The plumber, Tom, became Daniel's first client. The agreement was simple. Daniel would manage Tom's social media for $600 a month, less than half what Tom was paying his previous agency. In return, Daniel would create all original content, post daily, and respond to customer inquiries within 2 hours. Most importantly, everything would be specifically tailored to Tom's business and customer base. Daniel had no office, no fancy equipment, and no team. What he had was desperation driving him toward perfection. He couldn't afford to lose this client, so he threw everything he had into making Tom's social media better than anything a big agency could provide. He spent entire days at Tom's business, learning about plumbing, talking to customers, understanding what problems they faced, and how Tom solved them. The first month was brutal. Daniel was essentially working 18-hour days from his car. He would spend mornings at Tom's business, taking photos and videos, afternoons at coffee shops with Wi-Fi creating content and posting, and evenings researching plumbing terminology and industry trends so his posts would sound authentic. He slept in his car outside Tom's business sometimes, so he could be there early to capture shots of the team arriving for work. But the results were immediate and dramatic. Tom's social media engagement increased by 400% in the first month. More importantly, actual customers started mentioning they had found Tom through Facebook and Instagram. 3 new customers in the first month directly attributed their business to social media. For a small plumbing company, that represented thousands of dollars in new revenue. Word spread quickly in the small business community. Tom couldn't stop talking about his social media transformation. The baker from the diner, Lisa, reached out to Daniel within 3 weeks. Then came a local auto repair shop, a family restaurant, and a small accounting firm. Each new client was a validation that Daniel's approach was working. By month 3, Daniel was managing social media for 8 small businesses. He was still living in his car, but now by choice rather than necessity. Every dollar he earned went back into the business. He bought a better camera, invested in editing software, and purchased a mobile hotspot so he wasn't dependent on coffee shop Wi-Fi. The work was demanding, but fulfilling in a way his previous business had never been. Daniel wasn't just providing a service. He was helping these business owners tell their stories authentically. He was building genuine relationships with his clients and their customers. When Tom got a glowing online review that specifically mentioned how professional his social media looked, Daniel felt prouder than when he had closed his biggest consulting deal years earlier. Daniel's daily routine evolved into a well-oiled machine. Mornings were for content creation and client visits. Afternoons were for posting, engagement, and administrative work. Evenings were for research and planning the next day's content. He was working more hours than ever, but the work felt different. It felt meaningful. The breakthrough moment came in month 4. Lisa, the baker, got a huge catering order from a local company after they saw a video Daniel had created showcasing her custom corporate event desserts. The order was worth $8,000, more than Lisa typically made in 2 months. She was so grateful that she insisted on paying Daniel a bonus and referred him to 5 other business owners. Daniel realized he wasn't just managing social media anymore. He was helping small businesses grow in ways they never thought possible. His clients weren't just satisfied, they were becoming evangelists for his services. The referrals started coming faster than he could handle them. By month 6, Daniel had 15 clients and a waiting list. He was earning more money than he had in the 3 months before his original business collapsed. More importantly, he was building something sustainable. His clients loved him because he understood them. He wasn't an outsider trying to figure out their businesses. He was a small business owner who had experienced their struggles firsthand. The moment Daniel knew he had truly turned the corner came when he rented his first apartment in over a year. It was a small studio, nothing fancy, but it had a shower, a kitchen, and a bed. The first night sleeping in an actual bed instead of his car seat was emotional. But what struck him most wasn't the physical comfort. It was the realization that he had rebuilt his life using a completely different approach than before. His original business had been about scaling fast, taking big risks, and chasing the largest possible clients. This new business was about serving people authentically, growing steadily, and building genuine relationships. The old Daniel would have been impatient with the slow growth. The new Daniel understood that sustainable success comes from doing exceptional work for people who value that work. Daniel's transformation from homeless to successful business owner wasn't built on luck or a single breakthrough moment. It was built on a specific system he developed during those months of desperation. A system that he later called the Authentic Advantage Method, though he didn't give it that name until much later. The method originated from a simple realization. Small businesses fail at social media not because they don't understand technology, but because they don't have time to be authentic consistently. The big marketing agencies fail because they prioritize scale over authenticity. Daniel's method bridged that gap by creating scalable authenticity. Here's exactly how Daniel's method worked, step by step. First, he spent 1 full day immersed in each client's business before creating a single post. This wasn't just a consultation meeting in an office. Daniel would arrive when the business opened and stay until closing, observing everything. He watched how employees interacted with customers, what questions customers asked most frequently, what problems the business solved that competitors didn't, and what made customers smile or express satisfaction. During that immersion day, Daniel took hundreds of photos and videos, but not the polished marketing shots most agencies created. He captured real moments: a plumber explaining a repair to a worried homeowner, a baker teaching a child to decorate cookies, an auto mechanic showing a customer exactly what was wrong with their car. These authentic moments became the foundation of all content. The second step was creating what Daniel called character profiles for each business. Not just demographic data about customers, but detailed personalities. He would interview his clients extensively about their customers. Who were they? What did they worry about? What made them choose one business over another? What language did they use when describing problems? Understanding the customer's emotional journey allowed Daniel to create content that spoke directly to their needs and concerns. Third, Daniel developed a content calendar system that balanced planned content with real-time responsiveness. 60% of posts were planned in advance. Educational content, behind-the-scenes glimpses, customer spotlights, and seasonal promotions. 40% remained flexible for immediate opportunities, responding to customer reviews, sharing unexpected moments, commenting on local events, or addressing frequently asked questions that came up during the week. The fourth element was Daniel's engagement strategy. Instead of posting and forgetting, he committed to responding to every comment, message, and review within 2 hours during business hours. But his responses weren't generic thank yous. Daniel learned enough about each business to provide helpful, specific responses that added value. When someone asked a plumbing question in the comments, Daniel could provide a genuinely useful answer because he had learned about plumbing during his immersion days. Daniel's breakthrough insight was understanding the economics that made this approach sustainable. Big agencies charged high fees because they had expensive overhead. Offices, account managers, creative teams, and administrative staff. Daniel eliminated all that overhead. He worked from his car, coffee shops, and client locations. He was the account manager, creator, and strategist all in one. This allowed him to charge less than agencies while providing more personalized service and still maintaining healthy profit margins. The scaling strategy emerged from a mistake that turned into an opportunity. By month 8, Daniel had 23 clients and was overwhelmed. He couldn't maintain the same level of personal attention that had built his reputation. Instead of hiring employees immediately, Daniel created what he called content partnerships with his most successful clients. Tom the plumber had become so good at identifying content opportunities that Daniel offered him a deal. For every piece of user-generated content Tom created himself, Daniel would reduce his monthly fee by $50. Tom loved being involved in his own marketing, and Daniel got authentic content without having to be on-site constantly. This partnership model became the template for scaling without losing the personal touch. The first major result came in month 9. Daniel's 23 clients collectively saw an average of 340% increase in social media engagement and a 180% increase in social media-driven sales compared to their previous marketing efforts. But more importantly, client retention was 100%. Not a single client had left. In an industry where agency turnover was typically 40 to 60% annually, this was extraordinary. Word of Daniel's results spread beyond his local area. Business owners from neighboring cities started reaching out. Instead of trying to serve everyone, Daniel made a strategic decision that would define his future success. He would franchise his method rather than simply expanding his agency. He started training other displaced business professionals to implement his system in their own markets. The franchise approach solved multiple problems simultaneously. Daniel could help more small businesses without traveling constantly. Displaced professionals could build their own businesses using a proven system. And Daniel could generate revenue from both service delivery and training fees. Each franchise territory was limited to ensure everyone could succeed without oversaturating markets. By month 18, Daniel wasn't just running a successful social media agency. He had created a network of 67 franchisees across 8 states, all using his Authentic Advantage method. His total monthly revenue had grown from $600 with one client to over $40,000 per month from franchise fees and his original client base. The scaling didn't stop there. Daniel realized the fundamental principles of his method applied beyond social media. Small businesses struggled with authentic marketing across all channels: websites, email marketing, local advertising, and customer service. He expanded his training to cover comprehensive local business marketing using the same authenticity-focused approach. What started as a desperate attempt to earn enough money for food had become a movement. Daniel wasn't just teaching marketing techniques. He was teaching business professionals how to build sustainable businesses by serving their communities authentically. The irony wasn't lost on him that his greatest success came not from trying to serve everyone, but from focusing intensely on serving small business owners incredibly well. Today, 5 years after sleeping in his car, Daniel owns 7 different companies. The original social media agency still operates and serves over 150 local businesses. His franchise training company has expanded to 12 states with over 200 franchisees. He also owns a content creation studio, a local business consulting firm, a digital marketing software company, 2 co-working spaces designed specifically for small business owners, and a nonprofit organization that provides free marketing training to struggling entrepreneurs. But the numbers don't tell the real story. Daniel employs over 200 people, many of whom are former franchise clients who grew their operations large enough to need full-time staff. His companies generated over $8 million in revenue last year. More meaningfully, the businesses his network serves have collectively created over 1,200 new jobs and generated more than $40 million in additional local economic activity. Daniel still remembers exactly what rock bottom felt like. He keeps a photo on his desk from his car living days, a selfie he took in a gas station bathroom mirror, looking exhausted and defeated. Not as a reminder of his pain, but as a reminder of what's possible when you stop trying to get back to where you were and start focusing on where you need to go. The lessons Daniel shares when he speaks at business conferences and entrepreneurship programs aren't the typical motivation mantras. His message is more nuanced and practical. First, he talks about the danger of building success on foundations you don't control. His original business failed because it depended entirely on a few large clients. When they left, everything collapsed. His new businesses are built on diversified revenue streams and authentic relationships that aren't easily broken. Second, Daniel emphasizes the power of constraints. When he had unlimited resources and credit, he made reckless decisions. When he had no resources except time and determination, he made much better choices. Constraints forced him to focus on what really mattered: serving customers exceptionally well. Many of his franchisees are people who lost jobs or businesses and discovered that limitation led to clarity. The relationship lesson is perhaps the most important one Daniel shares. Elena never came back into his life romantically, and Daniel is grateful for that. Their breakup taught him that success without authentic relationships is fragile. Daniel is now married to Catherine, a small business owner who was one of his early clients. Their relationship began as a professional partnership and grew into something personal based on mutual respect and shared values. Daniel learned that the right relationships enhance your success rather than just tolerating it. Daniel's daily routine now looks nothing like his car-dwelling days, but it maintains the same focus on authentic connection. He starts each morning by reading customer feedback from across his network. Success stories, complaints, suggestions, he reads them all. This keeps him connected to the real impact of his work, rather than getting lost in revenue numbers and business metrics. 3 days a week, Daniel still does hands-on work with individual small business clients. He doesn't need to financially, but it keeps him grounded in the fundamental problems his companies exist to solve. When he's helping a family restaurant optimize their online presence or teaching a local service provider how to tell their story authentically, Daniel remembers why this work matters. The mistakes Daniel made in his original business still influence his decisions today. He learned that growth for growth's sake leads to instability. All 7 of his companies follow strict financial guidelines: 6 months of operating expenses in reserve, no debt beyond equipment financing, and revenue diversification requirements before expansion. These rules seem conservative to some business advisors, but they ensure Daniel never again faces the desperation that led to sleeping in his car. Daniel's perspective on failure has completely transformed. His original business failure wasn't a detour or obstacle to overcome. It was the necessary experience that taught him how to build something sustainable. The 8 months in his car weren't lost time. They were essential preparation for understanding his customers' struggles. The rejection and humiliation weren't punishments. They were education in empathy and resilience. When people ask Daniel what he's most proud of, he doesn't mention the revenue figures or the number of employees. He talks about the letters he receives from franchisees who built successful businesses using his method. He mentions small business owners who avoided closure because social media marketing helped them survive difficult economic periods. He describes the moment when Tom, his first plumber client, bought his own building after growing his business enough to afford commercial property. The real measure of Daniel's success isn't his personal wealth. It's the network effect of authentic business relationships he helped create. His franchisees serve thousands of small businesses. Those businesses employ tens of thousands of people and serve hundreds of thousands of customers. What started as one desperate man trying to earn enough money for food became a movement that strengthens entire local economies. Daniel's message to anyone facing their own version of sleeping in a car is both realistic and hopeful. The path forward probably doesn't look like going back to where you were before. It probably requires letting go of your previous identity and embracing something you haven't tried yet. It definitely requires focusing on serving others rather than just trying to save yourself. And it absolutely demands that you use your current struggles as education rather than just enduring them as punishment. Success isn't about avoiding failure. Success is about transforming failure into wisdom, and wisdom into service, and service into sustainable impact. Daniel learned that lesson in the most difficult way possible, and he's grateful for every painful step of that education. End of the story. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories of overcoming. And leave your comment below. Your message might brighten someone's day. See you in the next video.